Talking to CTV political commentator Scott Reid this morning. He was live part of our coverage. He was actually at Ford HQ last night with Siobhan Morris, our Queen's Park bureau chief. Siobhan seemed to lose her voice last night, Scott. You had to shout over the cheers from that Ford crowd who were very pleased with the results, although not the super overwhelming majority that perhaps some pundits had expected earlier in the night.
Yeah, I mean, it may not have been a historic-sized win in the sense that he didn't get 50% of the popular vote and he didn't get 95 seats. But if you're Doug Ford, you've won 3 consecutive majority governments. Your vote total has gone up in every single one of those elections. I mean, I think from a pure raw political standpoint, you look at it and you say, has there been a more successful politician in all of Canada in the 21st century? They've built a really formidable machine. And it's not like there weren't vulnerabilities. Healthcare, right direction, wrong direction, concerns with respect to affordability. There were problems that could have risen to bite Doug Ford, and they did not during this campaign. He kept it on track, kept it on focus, and they banked 4 more years.
There were so many interesting storylines out of last night, but one of the ones many still talking about, the fact that Bonnie Crombie couldn't secure that seat out of Mississauga East Cooksville. Talk about disappointing, but also saying that she will continue to stay on as leader. How difficult is that going to be, though, for her to not actually have a seat in Queen's Park?
Well, it's definitely a handicap, just because it means you're not in the legislature. People won't see you putting the fight in question period to the premier. But the other argument is, how much does that count for in this day and age? Is that what people are really paying close attention to? Look, it's a very disappointing result for Bonnie Crombie, but she did manage to pull her party back to official party status. She got 30% of the vote. These are radical improvements upon the last 2 elections for the Liberals. So she's sort of drawn them out of the graveyard. I think her position is probably secure, at least for the near term as leader, if for no other reason than I think, A, the party is grateful to her for putting them back into the race, and B, I don't know that there's somebody that's itching to take her job. I don't know that there's an obvious alternative or rival. I don't know that there's an organized effort to say, well, now that she's vulnerable, let's go in for the kill. You just don't see that. So I think that if Crombie wants a job, she'll be able to hold the job. And then, as you say, how is she going to make the most of the job when she's not in the legislature on a daily basis? Well, at least now she's going to have new resources as an official party to try to make the case.
Yeah. Okay, so 45% voter turnout, so a little higher, 1% higher than the last time out, Scott. But I want to talk about where you think Premier Doug Ford, because now we can call him that again, will go from here. I mean, again, 80, maybe 81 when it's all said and done. Pretty strong majority here. Is he going to need to be listening very much to either of the opposition parties?
Well, bluntly, no. Look, he's banked the victory. I think that speech you were talking about last night when Siobhan and I were standing on the platform, couldn't hear a damn thing. I mean, you might have been asking me, Scott, are you a big fat fool? And I would have been nodding and saying, yes, I absolutely am. You couldn't hear a thing. But that speech was focused on fighting words against Trump, fighting words in favor of protecting jobs and industry. So one of the things I'll be watching for is, does the premier move in light of new tariffs that are supposed to come down next week from the United States? Does he move to his opposition opponents? Does he try to bring the legislature together, put in place some kind of protection package, say these are the amounts of money we're going to spend, we're going to have a support package for industry and for workers, we're going to try to protect them from the vagaries, the caprice, and the malice of Donald Trump? I'll be watching to see what he does. He asked for this mandate. Yeah. He claimed the mandate last night. Now what's he going to do with the mandate, particularly with respect to trade and protecting jobs and industry in Ontario?
Yeah.
Does it matter that it's really no bigger than it already was? Because that's kind of what he was going for, right? I need a super mandate to sort of tackle Trump, et cetera. But that wasn't the result.
His campaign manager, Corey Tonight, said to me last night on the margins of their celebration, he said, well, no one got everything they wanted, but everyone got something they needed. And I think what he meant by that was the NDP retained official opposition, the Liberals got official party status, and Ford banked his new third majority government. I don't really think the size of the majority, whether he wanted 7 more seats or not, I don't think that's going to make much difference. He's got a mandate to take the fight to Trump. It's just that we don't really know what that means, to be honest with you. What does taking the fight to Trump mean? And I do think it probably is going to come down to not just rhetoric, but probably measures that are put in place, probably expenditures from the public purse, as we might see our dollar fall lower if tariffs are imposed, as we might see jobs and investment dry up. Can he use the public purse in Ontario to try to protect and offset those costs? And one thing he's got to be very concerned about is that the affordability challenges that are already felt sharply by Ontarians, that they don't intensify, because that will make him politically vulnerable. He'll want to move on that, if not to help people, then at least to help himself.
Yeah, it's also timely, too. It looks like these tariffs are coming as soon as next week, so we'll see what the first step is. Really, really quickly, because I think I have 30 seconds, we're hearing unofficially it looks like voter turnout about 45%. Nick and I expressed a bit of surprise because it seemed like it would be lower. What did you think, Scott?
I had the same reaction, but still in objective terms, that's a pretty low number.
Yeah.
And I think that does explain some of the strange splits. And some of the seats were a little unpredictable where you saw surprises, where maybe the PCs didn't steal NDP seats outside of Toronto, or maybe where the Liberal NDP fights broke for the NDP, even though the NDP only had 18% of the vote. Yeah. And yet they overcame the Liberals in seat count, who got 30% of the vote. So the low voter turnout probably actually helped create some of those weird alchemistic outcomes.
Some of the intricacies of our political system, indeed. Okay, Scott, we'll look forward to seeing you back in studio next week. I know you've been doing your podcast every morning, so we'll look forward to that, and enjoy the weekend. Hopefully you get some rest.
Thanks. Same to you, buddy.
Thank you.